A spilled milkshake in a small-town diner became the moment that taught a billionaire how to love, live, and truly see his son, and everything changed forever. The rain came down in thin silver lines, hitting the big glass windows of the small roadside diner. Inside, the smell of coffee and warm pancakes filled the air. Ethan Langford sat at a corner booth with his young son. Expense's suit looked out of place among the cracked red leather seats and the buzzing ceiling fan that never stopped squeaking. He scrolled through his phone, barely noticing the boy sitting across from him, swinging his legs and watching the raindrops slide down the glass. Ethan was a billionaire. People called him brilliant, powerful, untouchable. He owned companies that built the future, self-driving cars, smart homes, satellites. But when it came to his own life, it was like the power had gone out. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, and since then, he had buried himself in work. Thinking that money could fill the silence, it never did. Leo was quiet, a small boy with big eyes that always looked curious but unsure. He wanted to talk to his dad about his new drawing from school, about the science project he was proud of. But Ethan kept checking his emails, replying with half-hearted, "That's nice," buddy responses that didn't mean much. Their waitress appeared, holding 2 menus and a tired smile. "Good afternoon, folks," she said warmly. Her name tag read Maya. She looked young but worn out, the kind of tired that didn't just come from lack of sleep, but from too many worries and not enough time. Her ponytail was messy, and a few strands of hair fell into her face. But she had kind eyes that instantly made Leo smile. "What can I get you two today?" she asked. Leo looked at the menu like it was full of magic. "Can I have a chocolate milkshake?" he asked shyly. "Of course you can," she said, grinning. "Best one in town? I make it with extra chocolate." Ethan barely looked up. "Just coffee. Black." Maya nodded, still smiling, but she noticed how distant the man was. She'd seen his type before. Fancy watches, expensive suits, faces that didn't remember how to smile anymore. But the boy, he was different. There was something lonely in the way he played with the napkin, folding and unfolding it over and over. She went back to the counter, humming softly as she made the milkshake. When she returned, she set it down in front of Leo. His eyes lit up. He took a big sip and let out a happy sigh. "This is amazing," he said, grinning. "See?" she said playfully. "Told you." Just then, the milkshake tipped over. The cold, thick liquid spilled across the table, now dripping down to the floor and splattering across Ethan's sleeve. Ethan frowned, groaning in frustration. "Leo, careful." His voice was sharper than he meant it to be. The boy's face fell instantly, his lips trembling as he grabbed napkins to try and fix the mess. It's okay, Maya said quickly, dropping to her knees beside the booth. She grabbed a towel from her apron and started wiping the floor. "No harm done," Leo whispered. "I'm sorry." Maya smiled up at him. "Don't you worry about it, sweetheart. Happens to everyone. Even me." Ethan sat there, frozen, watching her crawl on the sticky floor, cleaning up after his son, and somehow making Leo feel safe, not embarrassed. It was such a small thing, but something inside him twisted. He couldn't remember the last time someone spoke to his son that gently. When the mess was finally gone, Maya stood up and brushed her knees. Her hands were red from scrubbing, but she still smiled. "There we go. Good as new." Ethan cleared his throat awkwardly. "Thank you. I'll cover the cleaning cost." Or, Maya laughed lightly. "Please don't. It's just a milkshake, not a crime scene." Even Leo giggled. Ethan tried to smile, but it came out stiff. Something about this woman's calmness bothered him. Or maybe it made him realize how tense he'd become. "Maya." "Try again," she said softly, setting it down. No spills this time. As Leo happily sipped through his straw, Maya leaned against the counter, taking a short breath. She was juggling 2 jobs, raising her little brother, and barely making rent. But somehow she still had the energy to make other people's kids laugh. She didn't know who Ethan was or how much money he had. To her, he was just another quiet dad with a kid who needed attention. When Ethan finished his coffee, he asked for the bill. She handed it to him with her usual smile. Thank you for stopping by. And for what it's worth, your son's got a great smile. Ethan glanced at Leo, who was still drinking his milkshake. Yeah, he said softly. He does. He put down $100 bill. Maya noticed and shook her head. That's way too much. Keep it, Ethan said. You earned it. She slid it back. Toward him. I didn't do anything special. You already paid me. Your son's smile is enough. The words hit him harder than he expected. No one had said something like that to him in years. Something simple, honest, and not about money. He stared at her for a long second. But Maya was already walking away to another table, humming again, helping an old man with his coffee. When they left the diner, Leo looked up and said, She was nice. Daddy, yeah, Ethan said, distracted. But his voice was different now, softer, as their car drove away. He found himself looking back through the window, watching Maya move between tables, still smiling despite everything. She was probably earning more blisters than tips, but she seemed free for the rest of the ride. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her kneeling down to clean the floor. Not because she had to, but because she cared enough to make his son feel better. That image stayed in his mind, replaying again and again. By the time they reached the city, his phone buzzed with messages from investors, board members, and assistants. But none of it felt important. He glanced at Leo, who was staring out the window, tired from the long day. Ethan wanted to say something. Maybe I'm sorry, or I love you, or even just good job. But the word stuck somewhere in his throat. Instead, he said quietly, Next time, we'll go back there. How about that? Leo's eyes lit up. Really? Yeah, Ethan said with a small smile. Really. The first time in a long while, he meant it. That night, when he tucked Leo into bed, Ethan sat by the window of his giant house, looking out at the rain again. He thought about Maya, her hands, her laugh, her words, and somewhere deep inside, he realized something he hadn't wanted to face. All his money, all his power, couldn't buy what that woman had, the ability to make a child feel seen, and in that quiet moment, Ethan Langford, the billionaire who could change the world with one phone call, felt a single tear roll down his cheek. Not for what he lost, but for what he might still be able to find. Ethan Langford could not get that small-town diner out of his mind. A week had passed since that rainy afternoon, but the image of Maya, the waitress, still played in his head. The way she smiled kindly, the way she had knelt on the dirty floor without hesitation, cleaning up his son's spilled milkshake while comforting the boy like it was the most natural thing in the world. It had been such an ordinary moment, yet something about it had shaken him deeply. He had lived for years surrounded by expensive things, glass towers, private jets, luxury cars, and people who only said what he wanted to hear. But no one in that world had ever looked at him the way Maya had looked at his son, with warmth, with care, with humanity. It made him feel small in a strange way, almost guilty. That Saturday, Ethan found himself sitting in his office, staring at his laptop, pretending to read a report. But his thoughts drifted again and again to that diner. He looked over at Leo, who was building something with Lego bricks on the floor. Hey, buddy, Ethan said suddenly. How about we go get lunch somewhere? Different? Leo looked up, surprised, like the diner. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, the diner. When they pulled into the gravel parking lot, Leo's face lit up. The same neon sign flickered in the window, and through the glass, Ethan could see Maya carrying a tray of coffee cups, smiling as she worked. She noticed them as soon as they walked in, her face brightening with recognition. Well, look who it is, she said cheerfully. My favorite milkshake customer. Leo grinned. Hi, Miss Maya. Ethan smiled slightly, more relaxed than before. They sat at the same booth as last time. Maya handed them menus even though Leo already knew what he wanted. Another chocolate milkshake? She asked playfully. Yes, please, Leo said, his voice full of excitement. Ethan ordered coffee again. This time, he put his phone away. As Maya moved between tables, Ethan found himself watching her. She had the same tired energy, but there was something. steady about her like she carried a quiet strength that nothing could take away. When she returned with their drinks, Leo started chatting about his school project. Maya leaned in to listen, asking questions and laughing in all the right places. Ethan just sat there, amazed at how icily his son opened up to her. After a while, Ethan asked, "Do you always work this hard?" Maya gave a small laugh. "Pretty much. Morning shifts here, evening shifts at the grocery store. Keeps the lights on." He frowned. "That's a lot." She shrugged, her smile not fading. "It's just life. My little brother's in middle school. He's a good kid, but it's expensive raising a kid these days." Ethan nodded slowly, trying to imagine her world. He thought about how he'd never even looked at the prices of groceries or bills. He had accountants and assistants for everything. Yet here was someone who did everything on her own, with no help, and still found the energy to smile. Leo handed Maya a folded piece of paper. "I made this for you," he said shyly. She opened it and smiled. It was a drawing, 3 stick figures sitting in the diner booth. One was labeled Daddy, one me, and one Maya. The sun was shining through the window in the corner of the page. Maya's eyes softened. "Oh wow, Leo, this is beautiful." "I look taller than your dad here," Leo giggled. "You are taller when you stand up." Ethan felt something warm rise in his chest, a strange mix of pride and sadness. He couldn't remember the last time Leo had drawn a picture of him. As the day went on, Maya brought them pie on the house, and Ethan insisted on paying anyway. Before leaving, he took out a business card and quietly slid it toward her. "If you ever need anything, just call," he said. She looked at the card, sleek, embossed, with his company's logo. "Mr. Langford," she said softly, "you seem like a good man, but I don't take help like that. It's not charity," he said quickly. "You just helped me see something I'd forgotten." Maya smiled politely, tucked the card away, and thanked him, but she didn't sound like she planned to use it. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He thought about what she'd said. She didn't want handouts. She wanted dignity. And that hit him harder than any business deal ever had. The next day, Ethan called one of his foundation managers. "I want to create a local grant," he said. "For small-town diners, community places. Fix things up, no publicity." Within a week, the diner's leaking roof was being repaired, all under the name of a community improvement fund. Maya didn't know Ethan was behind it. When she found out, because she was smart and figured it out quickly, she was furious. She waited until the next time he came in with Leo. Her smile was gone when she walked up to their booth. "So it was you?" She asked quietly, arms crossed. Ethan looked surprised. "Excuse me? The repairs? The new coffee machine?" The owner said some rich investor paid for it. "That's you, isn't it?" He paused, caught. "I just wanted to help." "Why?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp. "Because you felt sorry for me?" He shook his head. "No, because I admire you." That made her pause. He went on, his voice low and sincere. "You didn't just serve food that day. You showed my son kindness. You reminded me that not everything can be fixed with money. You showed me what strength looks like." Maya looked at him for a long moment, her expression softening. She sighed. "You didn't have to do all that, Ethan." "I know," he said quietly. "But I wanted to. For you. For him. For me." Leo, sitting between them, looked from one to the other, not fully understanding what was happening, but feeling the warmth returning. "Can we come again tomorrow?" he asked, breaking the tension. Maya laughed a little. "Maybe let your dad rest first," she said gently. Ethan smiled, but his eyes stayed on her. There was something about her, the way she stood her ground, the way she spoke honestly, the way she didn't see his money as power. It made him feel normal, human again. When they left that afternoon, the sun was shining for the first time in weeks. Ethan walked out of the diner with Leo's hand in his, and a strange lightness in his chest. For years he had lived with walls built around him, walls made of wealth, pride, and grief. But Maya, without even trying, had cracked a hole right through them. He looked down at Leo, who was talking excitedly about the next time they'd go back. Ethan squeezed his hand a little tighter. Maybe he thought this was the start of something different. Something real, something that money could never buy. The next weekend came, and Leo woke up earlier than usual. He ran into his father's study, still wearing his pajamas, holding a piece of paper. "Dad, can we go back to the diner today?" "I made something for Miss Maya," he said, waving his drawing proudly. Ethan looked up from his laptop, his eyes tired from reading reports. He hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "All right, buddy. Let's go surprise her." The drive felt different this time. The first time Ethan had gone to that diner, he'd only been looking for coffee and quiet. The second time, he'd wanted to see why he couldn't stop thinking about that place. But now, as he drove, he realized something had changed. He wasn't going out of curiosity anymore. He wanted to go because it made his son happy, because it made him feel human again. When they reached the diner, the morning sun was already shining through the glass windows. The place was busier than before. Maya was behind the counter, laughing with the cook, her ponytail bouncing as she moved around quickly. When she turned and saw them, her face lit up. "Well, look who came back," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "I was starting to think you two forgot about us." Leo jumped up and handed her the drawing. "I made this for you." She opened it and gasped softly. It was another picture, this time of the diner itself, with her, Leo, and Ethan standing in front of it. The sign above the door said Maya's Diner, written in Leo's uneven handwriting. She laughed, touched. "You made me the owner now?" "I like it." Ethan chuckled. He's been planning this all week. They sat in their usual booth. Maya brought them coffee and Leo's favorite milkshake without even asking. The easy comfort between them made Ethan forget the world outside. For once, no one cared about his last name or his money. He was just a dad, having lunch with his son and a kind woman who had somehow become part of their lives. During their meal, Maya told them stories about her little brother, Adam. He was 12, full of energy, and obsessed with soccer. She talked about how he sometimes helped her wash dishes at the diner just to spend more time together. Ethan listened carefully, truly listening, something he hadn't done for years. He could hear the love in her voice and the quiet exhaustion she tried to hide at one point. Leo said, "You work too much, Miss Maya. My dad used to work all the time, too." Ethan's heart squeezed a little at that. Maya smiled. "Yeah, well, sometimes we grown-ups forget how to slow down." She gave Ethan a playful look. "Right, Mr. Workaholic?" Ethan smiled back, embarrassed but amused. Guilty as charged. When Maya went to help another table, Ethan watched her. She wasn't fancy or rich, but she had something that his world lacked: kindness, without motive. She laughed with strangers, helped the elderly couple at the next booth, and comforted a crying child like she'd known them all her life. Ethan realized that she didn't just serve food, she served peace. Later that week, Ethan quietly arranged more help for the diner. He made sure a company donated new kitchen equipment under the same local grant name. He didn't do it for thanks. He just wanted her to have something easier in her hard life. But Maya found out again, and this time, instead of being angry, she came to his car after her shift. He had been waiting for Leo to finish his dessert when she knocked on the car window. He rolled it down, surprised. She looked tired but calm. "I know it's you again," she said softly. Ethan sighed. "I didn't mean to offend you." "You didn't," she said quickly. "I just don't want to feel like a project. I'm not someone who needs saving." He met her eyes and said quietly, "I don't see you that way. You're one of the strongest people I've met. You're raising your brother, working non-stop, and still finding time to make strangers smile. You're the kind of person I wish I'd been." That stopped her. She didn't know what to say. She looked at him differently, than not as a rich man trying to play hero, but as a father trying to change. "Why are you doing this, Ethan?" she asked finally. He hesitated, then admitted, "Because you reminded me what real life looks like. Somewhere along the way, I forgot what matters. You and Leo. You reminded me," Maya smiled faintly. "Then maybe we both needed to meet." After that, things changed slowly but naturally. Ethan and Leo started visiting more often, sometimes for breakfast, sometimes just to drop by and say hello. Maya would wave from the counter, and Leo would run to help her wipe tables. The three of them started sharing more than just food. They shared small pieces of life. One day, Maya invited them to her brother's school event. "He's playing in a charity soccer match," she told them, smiling. He'd be thrilled if you guys came. Leo was immediately excited. Can we go, Dad, please? Ethan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Of course. On the day of the game, Ethan showed up wearing jeans and a simple shirt. No suits, no assistants. Maya spotted him and grinned. You clean up nice, without the billionaire look. He laughed, feeling oddly nervous but happy. The soccer field was full of families, laughter, and the smell of food. Kids ran around with muddy shoes, parents cheered loudly, and Maya's brother Adam waved proudly from the field. Ethan stood beside Maya as they watched the game. You know, he said quietly, I've attended hundreds of business meetings, but this feels more real than all of them combined. Maya smiled. That's because you can't buy moments like these. When the game ended, Adam's team won, and everyone ran onto the field. Leo joined in, and soon Maya did too. Ethan hesitated, then kicked off his shoes and followed them. He laughed like a kid again, helping the boys chase the ball, falling and getting dirt on his shirt. For the first time in years, didn't care how he looked or who was watching. Maya saw him laughing with Leo and felt something warm stir in her chest. She had seen so many people walk into that diner, angry, sad, busy, distracted, but she had never seen anyone change the way Ethan did. When they all sat down on the grass, catching their breath, Leo said between laughs, Dad, you're actually fun when you're not working. Ethan ruffled his hair, laughing too. Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation. The sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink. Maya looked at them and said softly, You're doing great, you know? As a dad, Ethan looked at her, touched. I'm learning, he said honestly. Thanks to you. That evening, as they said goodbye, Maya smiled. See you at the diner? Ethan nodded. You can count on it. As he drove home, Leo fell asleep in the back seat, his head resting on the window. Ethan looked at him through the mirror. A quiet peace filled his heart. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of it. The walls he had built around himself were finally coming down. Piece by piece, sand it had all started in that little diner, with a spilled milkshake and a woman who had reminded him how to live again. The morning sun was soft and warm as Ethan Langford drove Leo to the diner. The air smelled faintly of rain from the night before, mixed with the scent of fresh bread and coffee drifting from the small town streets. Leo was bouncing in his seat, excited because today was special. Maya had invited them to a community event at her brother Adam's school, and Leo couldn't stop talking about the soccer match and the fun games she had promised. Ethan listened quietly, smiling to himself. Normally, he would have been thinking about board meetings or emails, but today, all that seemed far away. When they arrived, the schoolyard was buzzing with children running around, parents chatting, and tables set up with homemade food and drinks. Ethan felt a little out of place at first. He was used to polished offices, quiet luxury, and people who followed his every move with respect and caution. Here, he was just a man in jeans and a simple shirt, blending in among ordinary families. And strangely, he liked it. Maya was already there, standing near the field and chatting with other parents. The moment she saw them, her face brightened and she waved. Ethan, Leo. Over here. Leo ran to her, practically pulling Ethan behind him. Miss Maya, did you save a spot for us? She laughed. Of course. You two are special guests today. The day was full of noise and laughter. Kids played tag. There was a small petting zoo and a lemonade stand run by volunteers. Ethan found himself relaxing more than he had in years. Maya introduced him to other parents, and although he was shy at first, he found that they didn't care about his name or his wealth. He was just Ethan, the dad who showed up for his son. At one point, Adam's soccer game began. Leo ran to watch, tugging Ethan with him. Maya stood nearby, cheering loudly for her brother. Ethan watched the game quietly at first, but when a younger kid fell, he instinctively ran onto the field to help him up. That's when something remarkable happened. Maya noticed and smiled. Here was a man who rarely got his hands dirty, kneeling on the grass to help a child. It reminded her of the day he had watched her crawl on the diner floor. Soon Ethan found himself getting more involved. He kicked the ball with the children, helped untangle a few bikes that had fallen over, and even played a little soccer with Adam's team. His laughter, genuine and loud, echoed across the field. Leo ran alongside him, thrilled that his dad was joining in. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel the weight of his wealth, responsibilities, or grief. He felt light, alive, and free. Maya joined in too, kicking the ball barefoot across the field. She laughed as Ethan tried to block her shots, pretending to be competitive but failing spectacularly. "You're not very good at this," she teased. "I'll have you know I was a star in elementary school." Ethan joked, grinning. "Sure," she said, laughing so hard she had to hold her stomach. The children and parents around them started cheering, encouraging Ethan and Maya to keep playing. Ethan glanced at Leo, who was giggling uncontrollably as he ran after the ball. He realized that this was the kind of joy he had been missing for years. Simple, messy, and real. After the game, everyone sat on the grass, catching their breath. There were sandwiches, cookies, and lemonade, and Ethan and Maya shared a small bench, watching the children play. Maya's eyes were soft as she looked at him. "You know," she said quietly, "you're really good with kids." Ethan felt a pang of guilt mixed with pride. "I'm learning," he admitted. "Thanks to you and Leo." Maya smiled, but her expression was thoughtful. "You've changed since I first met you," she said. "You used to seem so distant, like you were afraid of everything real." Ethan nodded slowly. I built walls around myself after my wife passed away. I buried myself in work, thinking money and control could replace everything else." He looked down at his hands. "But you reminded me how to feel again. How to be a dad. A human." Maya reached over and lightly tapped his arm. "Everyone deserves a second chance to feel Ethan, even billionaires." For the rest of the afternoon, Ethan found himself letting go of the careful control he always held. He played games, helped kids climb ropes, and even assisted at the craft table when the volunteers were short-handed. Leo followed him everywhere, proud of his dad's newfound energy. He realized that being present didn't mean doing something extraordinary, it meant simply being there, fully, with no distractions. Later, as the sun began to set, Maya invited Ethan and Leo to join her for cleanup. "It's just some tables and chairs," she said, "but it's always better with extra hands." Ethan looked around at the parents and volunteers, then back at Maya and Leo. "All right," he said with a smile. "Let's do it." They worked together quietly, moving chairs, wiping tables, and gathering trash. It wasn't glamorous or important in the grand scheme of the world, but Ethan felt a strange contentment. He was doing something meaningful, not for money, not for recognition, but just because it mattered in that moment. As they finished, Adam ran over, sweaty and excited from the games. "Thanks for helping today." He shouted to Ethan, "You're awesome." Ethan ruffled his hair. "Thanks, buddy. You've played great too." Maya watched the interaction, and a soft smile spread across her face. She had seen Ethan change before her eyes, the man who had once been distant and controlled, now laughing, kneeling, helping, and fully alive. She felt a quiet pride in him, knowing that the impact of small human moments could reach even the most guarded hearts. On the drive home, Leo leaned against his father's shoulder, exhausted but happy. "Dad, that was the best day ever. Can we do it again next week?" Ethan chuckled softly, looking at the road ahead. "Absolutely," he said. "We'll make it a regular thing." That evening, as Ethan sat by his window, he reflected on the day. He thought about how small acts, a spilled milkshake, a kind word, a barefoot soccer game had transformed his life. Maya had reminded him that love, patience, and presence were far more valuable than wealth. She had shown him that being a father meant more than providing. It meant sharing moments, feeling together, and learning together. Ethan realized that his world was changing, slowly but surely. He had discovered a new rhythm to life, one where laughter, play, and human connection mattered as much as business deals and investments. And in that quiet reflection, he felt a hope he hadn't known in years, that this new life, full of real, messy, joyful moments, was only just beginning. He knew that Maya, Leo, And even a small-town community had taught him something priceless. The billionaire who once watched from a distance was now crawling, laughing, and playing on the grass. He was no longer afraid to live, and for the first time in a long time, Ethan Langford went to bed feeling truly content. Months had passed since that first rainy afternoon in the diner. Ethan Langford's life had quietly begun to shift in ways he'd never expected. The skyscrapers, private jets, and endless meetings still existed, but their grip on him felt looser now. He had learned to slow down, to notice small moments, and to let himself feel again. And much of that change had come from Maya, Leo, and the small town that had welcomed them. One bright morning, Ethan and Leo drove to the diner as usual. Leo was practically bouncing in his seat, excited to see Maya. Ethan smiled, feeling a warm anticipation he hadn't felt in years. The diner itself looked different. The roof repairs had been finished, the old coffee machines replaced with shiny new ones, and the small community garden outside was blooming. The changes had been subtle but meaningful, a reminder of what happens when care and kindness meet action. As they walked inside, Maya noticed them instantly. Her tired smile became a genuine beam of joy. There they are. The regulars who keep this place alive, she called out, laughing. Leo ran to hug her. Hi, Miss Maya. Look, I drew another picture for you. She knelt to take the paper, laughing softly. The drawing showed Ethan, Leo, and Maya standing in front of the diner. Sun shining, flowers blooming, and everyone smiling. You two really make this place look magical, she said. Ethan chuckled quietly. It's all thanks to your magic, Maya. They settled into their usual booth. Leo drank his chocolate milkshake, giggling at a joke Maya made, while Ethan sipped his coffee, watching them both. For the first time in years, he felt like an ordinary man, a dad, simply enjoying time with his son. After breakfast, Ethan noticed the way Maya moved behind the counter, efficiently and cheerfully serving customers. He thought back to that first day he had seen her crawl on the floor to clean up Leo's spilled milkshake. That small act had changed everything. She had reminded him that life wasn't about wealth, power, or control. It was about humanity, compassion, and connection. Later that morning, Maya handed Ethan a small envelope. This came for you, she said quietly. Ethan opened it and found a thank you note from the diner owner, along with pictures of the renovations and a short story about how the community had come together to help keep the diner alive. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot to him. He realized that his help had gone beyond money. It had inspired a ripple of kindness in the community as the day went on. Ethan found himself reflecting on the journey he had been on since that first rainy afternoon. He remembered sitting in the diner, feeling awkward and out of place, watching Maya kneel on the sticky floor. He remembered how he had started noticing his son more, listening to him, and finally feeling connected to him. He remembered the school events, the soccer games, and the countless small moments that had taught him how to be present. Ethan realized that Maya's impact had gone even further than he had thought. She had not only shown him the value of kindness, but she had also taught him humility. He had learned to listen, to observe, and to act with care rather than authority. The lessons had reshaped his relationship with Leo, but they had also reshaped him. That afternoon, a young man came into the diner looking nervous. He introduced himself as a local college student who had been struggling to find part-time work. Ethan listened as he explained that the diner had referred him to an opportunity, funded through the community grant Ethan had quietly helped create. The boy's eyes sparkled with gratitude, and Ethan felt a warm satisfaction. He realized that helping others could be simple, quiet, still profoundly impactful. As the day faded into evening, Ethan, Leo, and Maya sat outside the diner on a small bench. The air smelled of fresh flowers from the garden and the fading warmth of the sun. Leo rested his head against Ethan's arm, and Ethan felt a calm he hadn't known in decades. Dad, Leo whispered, remember the first time we came here? You looked so serious in Miss Maya. She was amazing. Ethan nodded, smiling softly. I do. And look at us now. Maya smiled, watching them. She had seen Ethan grow from a distant, powerful man into someone who could laugh, play, and care deeply. She had seen him transform quietly, learning the value of human connection over wealth and influence. She felt proud of him not because of what he owned, but because of who he had become. Weeks later, Ethan took a more active role in the community. He quietly funded programs for working single parents, scholarships for students like Maya's brother Adam, and improvements to local facilities. He never made announcements or sought recognition. He wanted his actions to be meaningful, not famous. Maya continued running the diner, finishing college with his discreet support and maintaining her dignity and independence. One ordinary afternoon, Leo accidentally spilled his milkshake again. Ethan laughed, grabbed a towel, and dropped to his knees beside him. Maya, behind the counters, smiled, remembering that first spilled milkshake months ago. The scene was almost identical, yet completely different. Now, it was full of laughter, love, and connection. Ethan looked at Maya and said softly, "Thank you for everything. You changed our lives." Maya nodded, smiling. "You changed yours too, and that's what matters," Leo giggled, wiping his hands on a napkin. "Can we have more milkshakes, please?" Ethan laughed and nodded. "Absolutely." The diner continued to thrive, filled with community, laughter, and the kind of warmth that no money could buy. Ethan, once a billionaire who watched life from behind glass and distance, had learned to kneel, laugh, and live fully. He had discovered that the richest moments in life were not measured in dollars or power, but in love, care, and human connection, as the sun set behind the small town. Ethan held Leo's hand and looked at Maya, grateful for the ordinary, extraordinary moments that had changed everything. The spilled milkshake, the small acts of kindness, and the laughter of children had taught him a lesson that wealth never could. Life was about showing up, being present, and opening your heart to others, and in that quiet, golden evening, Ethan Langford smiled, knowing that everything had truly changed in just one small human moment.